Hi, this is Corinne Jagers. Welcome to my mini lesson on imagery. Little background on this mini lesson. It is intended for 10th grade English and it is a component of a poetry unit. The standards addressed by this lesson are Common Core Standards, Reading Literature, RL4, determine the meaning of words and phrases as they are used in the text, including figurative and connotative meanings, analyze the cumulative impact of specific word choices on meaning and tone, and language standards L5A demonstrate understanding of figurative language, word relationships, and nuances in word meanings. And the learning objectives, you will be able to identify imagery techniques used in various texts. You will examine how imagery helps an author convey mood and emotion, and you will be able to apply imagery techniques to your own writing in order to enhance meaning. So to get started, we're going to start with a listening activity. This is a think, pair, share activity. And basically, I want you all to listen to the song Funny the Way It Is by the Dave Matthews Band. And then after the song is finished, I want you to draw any images that come to mind. I do have the link here that will take us to play that song, but for presentation purposes and time constraints, I will just pretend that we did that. So we'll just imagine that we've all finished writing or drawing our images from the song. Yahoo! Now I want you to pair up with your neighbor and share what you came up with. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and define imagery. Imagery is a literary technique in which author uses sensory words and phrases to create mental images. So we have olfactory, auditory, tactile, visual, and gustatory. So why use imagery? Why should we care about imagery? Well, basically imagery, it adds depth to your writing. By studying and understanding imagery, you are boosting your reading comprehension skills. And by applying imagery techniques to your own writing, you are creating an experience for your reader, one that they can actually visualize and connect to their own life experiences. To support that statement, I pose the question, which statement has more meaning? The sky was blue, or the sky was a bright forget-me-not blue? So I hope that you would all agree that the latter statement has more meaning because it tells you what type of blue the sky was, what shade of blue the sky was. Next, we're going to go into some examples, and we're going to start with olfactory and tactile. So olfactory is anything pertaining to the sense of smell. The example I have is Dan's socks, still drenched with sweat from PE, filled the class with an aroma similar to that of rotting cheese. So you could definitely imagine how that room smelled to everybody in there. Next, tactile. That's going to be something that appeals to your sense of touch. The example I have is the sheets felt like ice on my bare skin. The pillow was a mound of snow. So you can imagine that that bed was pretty icy cold. Next we have visual, auditory, and gustatory. Visual is pretty self-explanatory. That's anything pertaining to sight. The example I have is the tavern was worn down with age, the wooden bar chipping away, the floors black from dirt. So you can definitely get a visual image of what that tavern looked like. Auditory is going to be sound. Her voice is full of money. That was the inexhaustible charm that rose and fell in it, the jingle in it, the cymbal song of it. So you can imagine that her voice was sort of musical and high-pitched sounding. That example was from The Great Gatsby in describing Daisy's voice. And then we have gustatory. That's pertaining to your sense of taste. The example I have is, it must be on charcoal they fatten their fruit. I taste in them sometimes the flavor of soot. And in this example, the author was describing, or he was talking about some grapes that had grown after a fire. So now we have a practice activity. And basically what I want you all to do is write a short poem that depicts the following image using at least 2 imagery techniques discussed in this lesson. So we all know that practice makes perfect, so I want you to apply what you've learned by using this image here. So I would allow 10 to 15 minutes for this activity, but again, for presentation purposes, and we'll go ahead and move on. But actually that wraps up this lesson. The last thing I want to do is give you an idea of what's next, what we're going to talk about next. So, what does this statement, "I've got your back," mean? Is it a literal or figurative statement? So, you guessed it. Next, we're going to be talking about figurative language, specifically the metaphor, simile, hyperbole, and personification. That wraps up my mini lesson. Thanks for listening.